And we spoke to give 1 minute wrap-ups before we get into questions and answers. Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Howard. I think that in what all of the speakers said today, internet connectivity is essential for economic growth. It's been spurred by the landing of the ACE cable in Liberia, but that is not enough. We now have to get that capacity distributed throughout the country to as many Liberians as possible. But getting that capacity out is still not sufficient. We need to build human capacity so that people can better understand the importance and proper usage of the internet. And the more people you have using the internet, the greater the need for internet governance for the protection of the public at large. So we've done the necessary first step. We have landed the ACE cable in Liberia. It's improved pricing. It's improved access to services and quality of service. I know that we can actually stream movies and other videos.
And streaming right now.
2 years ago, I was able to watch the NBA finals via streaming, and that was shortly after it was the ACE was the CCL terminal station went live. So I think we all, without knowing it, unless maybe you planned it in terms of what you asked people to speak about, we all had a common thread. And I think there's a lot that can be said, and we'd like to hear from the audience as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Dr. Wilkins?
Okay, I would like to I agree with what the chair said. Internet access is not only imperative, it's actually a right now. But with the access, we need to also think about educating the users. Internet, Facebook is not the internet. There are other things that you can use the internet for to benefit yourself and the country. We also need to build the capacity to develop content for the internet, and that means our universities, our schools, and even the government needs to step up whatever they're doing now to ensure that happens. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Wilkins. Mr. Clark?
Yes. Now, we all really in agreement about the development of the internet and the use of the internet to really improve overall development here. Darren spoke a point now when he talked about government providing better service, but also because, let's say, for instance, education now, there's a wide range of educational facilities that are basically online. But of course, we need to have access to the internet to be able to benefit here. We see in a community where our major universities still go through a difficult manual service. And that makes it quite difficult if someone comes from school, you ask them what paper, so they're still working on it. When in fact, at this point, you should be able to just send an email and have access to your entire documentation. But that is just one side of it. A few days ago, I was speaking with the Elections Commission on preventing electoral disputes. And one of the issues that came out of the issue of whether the people who are listed in the registration of parties really do exist. And that opened a wide range of issues. There are too many persons in the country who have got different data sets at different institutions. The internet makes it very easy to ensure that we synchronize such data. I can tell you there are people in this world who have one set of data on a driver's license, a completely different set on a hospital card, There is different dates on the academic documentation, and then at passport office they got something else. But I like the fact that a number of government institutions are already talking about biometrics, because if you have a biometrics registration at birth, that set of information can keep continuing, and you use that, and nobody have to question your nationality. You simply show your driver's license, and then someone will easily help you to obtain your passport. So the internet really takes over our entire life. Of course, we need to be the harbingers. As much as we talk about use is increasing, but we need to understand the context of the use and work together, because if we all work together and raise the kind of awareness, a lot more people get educated about it, and we can hold our governors accountable, hold them responsible to help us improve the services. To an extent now, globally, people say human right, internet is actually a human right. Because if you go to bank and you need to have some internet service, even if you're not using it directly, but just the fact that EcoBank got 20 branches and you'll be using Syncor, or you is ready today and you can go there and access your money, that's actually a human rights issue. And so, why shouldn't that service be available for everyone? That is a real question. So what can we do? What arguments can we make? And how can we all get involved in making sure that these kind of services are available for everyone? Because it actually makes life better for all of us.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kumar.
Oh, summary.
1 minute.
1 minute. Well, I'm glad to see so many people here, and look to working with all you and having you get involved and get engaged. And I have my cards here, so if you want to find out, if you want to get any more information about what project we're doing in USA Jams, what the Internet Society or other areas are doing, please do let me know. And I would love to work with you all. I will be back at the end of January, but feel free to call or email or whatever, to ask ZZ for my name, numbers, and I'll be happy to give it all to you. Thanks.
Okay, now it's your turn to ask questions. Does anybody have a question?
There is a question online.
There's a question online.
There's a question online.
Okay. Go ahead, Philip.
What's the question?
It's
Hello, good morning, good afternoon.
Wait.
Are you getting me? Good afternoon.
Yes.
I don't know whether you are hearing me. Good afternoon. This is Philip Johnson.
Yes, we are hearing you.
Oh, thank you very much, Mr. President, Mr. Howard. Thank you for all of the honorable guests that did a very, very wonderful presentation this morning. Well, I am Philip Johnson, one of the members of the board of trustees of the Internet Society, Liberia chapter. We, as this morning, the Secretary General, all the speakers exactly told you, we funded the ISOP to really help build internet access to all of Liberians. Everyone should have access to internet in our country. Just for information, ISOP is also represented internationally on ICANN. As Judith just told you, we met at several ICANN meetings where we were ably representing ISOP Liberia as one of the
a large group within the ICANN structure. And we want to extend our heartfelt thanks to the present leadership for their manners, for the very good conduct of this workshop. My question goes to the Honorable LTA Chair, where we usually hear about the universal access, where we are using, do you have any special cooperation between civil society or NGO like Internet Society and the LTA for working together to expand Internet access to the pool? As you know, there are many who do not have access, who are unable to access Internet because of the lack of knowledge, lack of access to Internet in the rural area. And an organization like ISOC purpose is to expand this through education and awareness. Is there any cooperation between a civil society like ISOC and the LTA in working together in order to bring access to those who may not have access to Internet like the pool? Thank you very much, Madam. Thank you very much, panelists.
Thank you for your question, and for those who were not able to hear it, the essence of the question directed at me is whether there is any collaboration between the LTA and an organization such as ISA to get Internet access to the general populace that does not have it. There's definitely cooperation between the LTA and ISOC, but not necessarily in that context. One of the biggest, most recent initiatives involving ISOC and the LTA was the LTA's facilitation of the establishment of Liberia's first Internet exchange point, which will ultimately speed up connectivity in a way, even though it looks pretty quick when you have broadband connections, but you don't have transmissions going out of Liberia to come back into Liberia. That will also lower the cost of Internet. The LTA facilitated this process that brought together the service providers, Internet service providers, and ISA. And we facilitated it in numerous ways, including the incorporation of LIXPA, the Liberia Internet Exchange Point Association, the promotion of the execution of the peering agreements between the various operators, and general support. In terms of getting Internet connectivity outside of Monrovia, because a lot of it is concentrated here, we have recently passed adopted regulations on the Universal Access Fund, and we will be implementing 2 to 3 pilot projects. Those are demonstration projects to show that the process for public tenders of projects, universal access projects, will work to identify any shortcomings or flaws in that process that we've developed. In addition to adopting the universal access regulations, we've adopted the operations manual for the project implementation unit, which will be housed initially in the LTA. The regulations, as well as the operations manual, speak to the governance of the universal. The establishment of the governing board is chaired by the Ministry of Post and Telecommunications, with the LTA serving as secretary to the governing board, and the establishment of the implementation committee, which will be chaired by the LTA, and from the operators. So getting the internet out to unserved and underserved. But in terms of our collaboration with ISA, while we support it generally, our primary, most recent initiative involved the establishment of the Internet Exchange Point in Liberia. Thank you. So she cut it off.
Yeah. It's fixed off.
Yeah.
This some percent of the parents is online. So we are putting out project for innovating, developing a campaign to reduce such percentage. So in that line, as development
the national backbone facilities that require power. So in addition to that, the feasibility study for the national backbone is looking at using the CLSG line, that's the Cote d'Ivoire, Liberia, Sierra Leone, Guinea power line, to help to enhance the national backbone. And because the CLSG does have fiber in there, and it can reduce the amount of investment that has to go into the national backbone if we can piggyback on this power line. Power is something that we have found accounts for between 40 to 60% of operational costs of service providers in the ICT and telecommunications sector. So with the introduction of more capacity from the various sources that the government of Liberia is working on right now, including the hydro plant, the WAP line, CLSG, and all of that, with the introduction of additional capacity, a lot of these power challenges should be addressed. And it will also help to reduce the cost of internet to Liberians. Thank you.
It's been cut off, so I'll get it recorded. So I'm just hoping, I'm putting it on mine, but it's just like, it cut
Went
off.
off, right?
Yeah, and so I closed it, so it won't have interference.
And I have quite a few questions actually. My first question is, does anyone know if the lack of security online in Liberia, is it the reason that the banking institutions are not accepted, like for PayPal payments and other organizations like that? If you want to buy something, if you want to connect yourself to PayPal for payment, so that you can be able to receive payment for your online business, they will not accept the Liberian bank. Does anyone know anything about that?
I don't know if you know anything about that.
Yes, I think I've been part of a conversation. I've been part of a conversation lately, but I think it's not because of it doesn't see security issues. It's not getting people there because most of our organizations are. You have to convince the international banking that they are quite secure. It took a long time to start using the EcoBank Visa card anywhere outside. But that had started UBA and EcoBank cards are widely used outside Liberia.
Yeah.
So I think we just all need to learn the security, and there have to be more convictions because the guys, they think they have more to lose if they slip out.
And my answer still stands. Officially, I don't know, but as a private citizen, based on some of my experiences and what I've been told, is that there is a very high degree of fraud emanating from African countries, particularly West African countries. And so that serves as a barrier or an impediment to having these entities allow that. Some of the things that will help relate to IGF, internet governance. In addition, there are ECOWAS supplementary acts and directive on cyber security, which the LTA was instrumental in transposing. It is in the process somewhere between, it's in the process of getting to the national legislature. So that could very well be an issue. I think that financial institutions may feel a little bit more comfort when those types of protocols are in place, but not only in Liberia, throughout West Africa. Because what a lot of people don't realize is when you go online to do a transaction, your specific computer IP address will tell an entity that you're communicating with that you are located in this area that is considered high risk or off limits or something like that. So in addition to all of the things that governments and institutions can do, it's ultimately left up to us as individuals to encourage each other to be forthright and honest in our use of the internet. Until we do that, and we have a more robust institutional framework in terms of governance that will be enabled by some of those ECOWAS protocols, it's up to us to make sure we serve as internet cops of our own and report unsavory behavior.
And that was excellent. And this is Judith Hellerstein. I also wanted to add, there's a lot of other problems also government can do once after those legislation is also joining with others in other countries in working with the Commission on Cybersecurity, working on, I don't know, maybe Commission knows the progress of joining the Budapest Convention, the European, there's a European, what U.S. and a lot of European countries are joined is it's called the Budapest Convention on Cybercrime, and it's based on the Council of Europe decisions. And what that does also, it groups you up with different partners so that if there's crime in sort of like in parts of Africa and the Liberia, they have contacts, they can contact right away. This increases the partnership and the ability of saving the records and fighting the criminals, and all this does is shows the world and shows these private sector companies that Liberia is serious about ending cybercrime, is serious about fighting cybersecurity. And once these countries see that the government is really serious about that, then a lot of these sectors, companies will open up and be available for donations and that type of thing. But they need to take the step towards that to show others that we are serious about it.
Okay, then my second is just an observation.
Budapest Convention.
Yes.
Yes.
For education.
You can also get money from the Justice Department.
In a lot of communities, they don't have access to some of the required reading. They don't have the funds to buy like Murder in Sour Patch, Who Knows the Raven John. And when you look for other textbooks like this online, you can find an online version. But in Liberia, you cannot find an online version of any of these required readings for the Liberian students. So as we talk about making the internet applicable and desirable for the average citizen, this would be one of the things that would cause them to be interested in things that they would be able to not be forced to go buy some of these books, be able to access it online for free. Another thing is, you see a lot of people on the internet doing things like cooking, and they're demonstrating how to cook different dishes. And you can find that for other countries. And you can find videos of people making potato greens online in Liberia, but when you see that it's being sponsored by an outside entity, and the person that is cooking, I watched a couple of them, and the way that she cooked it was not the way a real Liberian would cook it. She was in front of the camera because she was getting the funding, but she does not know how to cook a Liberian dish. So if you have those type of, again, initiatives for the average citizen, that you can be on YouTube. And a lot of people outside of Liberia, in some of the other countries, in Europe, in America, they don't know how to fix potato greens. And they want their children, the children maybe say that, okay, my mom talks about potato greens, but I don't know how to fix that. She's not here before. To be able to access information on the internet. And also on YouTube, you can get money. If you get enough viewers watching your videos, companies will solicit you to do advertising on your videos. So it's another way to bring money in. If we talk about Again, the average citizen being interested in the internet. People carving wood, a class demonstration, how do you carve wood? Different things of the skills and talents that Liberians have will also promote within them an appreciation for their culture and a desire to, you know, to feel good about their passion of their area of work. You know, so there are different things that we can do along those lines. And then as far as promoting tourism, a lot of the countries have earth cams. I don't know if you know what those are, but they are just like a webcam, but they have a posting on buildings in strategic areas throughout their country that they would like for the outside world to come and see. Like, for example, you can have one in the National Museum, where it will just be aimed at certain ones. And so the way that you access it is you type in the internet Earth Cam and you put the country that you want to see. And then it will give you a list of those Earth Cams in that country. And then you can go and see for yourself through the cam, you know, what's inside that building or what's on that street or just why citizens passing. You know, they have some where they just have it on the street. People passing up and down with the thing on their head and chickens running around wild. You know, a lot of people don't know anything about it. They've never seen it before and they're amazed. They find it funny and they find it interesting. They say, oh, well, that's what Liberia is like. I never thought that. I don't really know Liberia exists. When you say Liberia, they go, huh? That's why they know now is because of Ebola. But before that, they don't know anything about Liberia. They just they know anything about it. About South Africa, Kenya, but not Liberia. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let me try to respond to.
Turn it on, turn it on, turn it on.
It's important to, I like to respond to the issue. Actually, content, local content is actually, African content is actually very limited on the internet.
Yes.
Very limited, and that has been part of the discussion at different forums with regions. And but the challenge is for the rest of us. You know, how much content am I putting up as a person? Like we are generally, most of the media, that's my other sector, most of the media are not online. And even if they're online, the system is not especially archived. And I will run down to more specifics. I try to ensure that the press union is kept online. Unfortunately, the guy who worked up our site, or the company that worked up our site, they didn't put sufficient archiving there. And so I think a lot of us, we need to do that and say, okay, we need to expand the space, because if we put data up today, and tomorrow and the next day we put in additional thing, I need to be able to come and look at the November issues. If I can't find them, then that's actually a waste of resources. But a lot of us need to, because there are a lot of open services that we can. Are we writing Facebook? Are we writing notes? A lot of us use Facebook. We put a lot of pictures. But when Darren is here, he writes a lot of just of very interesting life issues that he put up in the media. And I know I'm looking forward to working with you to just compile them and have it published. And that goes on to our local books. Some of the books that we use here are absolutely not online. And so that is left with us. And so that is why it's important to collaborate with a like ISOC. And once we have a shared conversation on it, we can seek out support and resources, because resources will not come easily to individuals. We don't have that strength of philanthropy yet. But under the guidance of an organization like ISOC, we can start working on that. And that works well. Anybody here from ILAB, I know they had a huge mapping situation. I kept sending the information, and the guy realized I was actually not going to the mapping sessions. It was like identifying places like New to map. And they did that for months, but again, that was a project base. And after the project went out, they're not doing that, but I can show you that a lot of locations are actually mapped. Whenever you run when you're using your mobile or whatever, and then you try to find a location, and suddenly it comes there that a particular location is UL or somewhere. That is the result of some of those activities. But of course, the mapping like UL is mostly Monrovia and a few other locations. Because so that you get to hear a few other, what information we provided is what is there. But we all need to keep putting up those put up pictures of events, and people have access to them. Just put a small caption because if you don't put the event, nobody will want to know that because a random search can find a lot of information, including the ones you thought you were just doing privately. Once you have put up some caption.
If I can just quickly add to that, all you've talked about is relevant to our young people who are developers. Guess what? The Facebook that we all, well, most people, I shouldn't say we, the Facebook that most people are so enamored with, it was started by a college student in his dorm room, his dormitory room. You don't need to be some super star or be in the Western world. Look around you here in Liberia and see the things that people need and be creative. It's an opportunity for entrepreneurship and the beginning, or at least the incentive for future billionaires. It can be done. Don't think that it only happens in the Western world. It's a wealth of opportunity here waiting for you to tap.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks so much. And I also wanted to talk to others. Hattie mentioned a good point about the security, but also not sure if everyone knows there's a new free resource that's came out. It's called Let's Encrypt. If you go to let'sencrypt.org, they want to make sure that that the secure browsing is what everyone is using, and that certificates are enabled to everyone, and not just people who can afford to pay for them. And so they work to get out on those. So there's all these different resources out there. Even on the Internet Society page, there's tons of resources. There's policy briefs. There's a lot of documentation up on the not maybe on in the main Internet Society page. There's a lot of ways to reach out and to get more information. If you want some information about any type of security, a lot of the people within ISOC would be happy to talk to you. You can reach out within Africa. You can reach out to the African Bureau. The African Bureau has people based throughout Africa, and they would be happy invite if you wanted them in ahead of time to invite them to come and speak on different issues. They have a lot of different programs that they work on, and just talk to them and find out which of their programs would work best for you and see how they can actually help out.
You mentioned local textbooks. Now, I'm not speaking for the Ministry of Education, but I think I overheard somebody talk about digitizing those books. Although there's a lot of work that needs to be done to get to that point. We are in the conversation with one of the officials. We're trying to imitate the current academic approach. But again, the issue of access to the internet has to be addressed. But there's a discussion on that. Now, I propose to the literacy because of something you mentioned something about potato grains. Now, the issue of the literacy is to educate, to educate people about the use or the uses of the internet. Today, Liberia has the entertainment industry is doing much better than it did in the past because of YouTube. Okay, so if Mantua who lives in Hutu or wherever, somebody tells her that she can be paid $25 to show or teach them how to actually make potato grains or palm butter on YouTube, you have a lot of people coming in.
Thank you very much.
name is Alfonso K. Vital Trust Services Incorporated. I really like the internet.
It get up, so I have to need to move.
Negative impact of the internet as people. So my question is how we are interested in having open access to the internet, but how prepared are we to customize the content of the internet to protect our society, to protect our country, integrity, like we talk about Christian, let's say religion aspect of our life and the internet is going to affect. How prepared is Liberia actually to, in let's say, editing or customizing the content of the internet to fit our society?
Down. Down. You have to move.
All right, are you talking, let me understand, are you saying, asking?
The negative impact the internet has on people.
Okay, we are, I've read all like China, other countries that, and certain things, we are advocating an open internet. I'm not sure if we want to be banning or, I'm not sure.
Well, let me put it this way.
Yeah.
They control what they want to be displayed in their country. They have ways of controlling.
Right, but that's not what we
There are other countries that don't appear, you don't see in there based on our way of doing things, and you customize it to fit their society. Are we ready, or are we just going to be open up to the internet and looking at the negative impact that it will have on our society?
Okay, what is happening in China and countries that censor the internet is not considered international best practice. In fact, the International Telecommunication Union strongly advocates against regulating the internet. There are ways as far as individuals to say, for example, a parent. A parent might be able to restrict certain things that their children have access to, but in terms of government interventions to regulate the internet, that is something that the ITU strongly advocates against. So we have to find some other means of achieving the objective that you're concerned with, and I think it's a good concern because with all the good that the internet brings, it also brings a lot of bad. But not regulation. We will not regulate the internet. Thank you.
Said it better.
Yeah. Zizi, if you want them to hear, Philip can hear. No one can hear unless you either bring your laptop or something.
Or they come closer.
Or they come.
So your voice can be picked up.
Philip is trying to participate. Philip. So I got a gentleman from our esteemed vice president who's based in Senegal is participating, and he couldn't hear you if you stood up there.
Okay.
So talk loud still.
My name is Alex Brown, Assistant Director of the LTA. Mine is not a question, just an input to a couple of questions that I heard. The gentleman up there, excuse me, I don't know his name, asked about the involvement in bridging the gap with the Microsoft proposal about our 57% less space that we have around the globe. I really wanted to say that for Liberia, the outside is not going to do it for us. we as programmers can do it. And how do we do it? Is by establishing communities, IT communities, in terms of work groups. You can have a SQL work group, you can have so many other work groups in terms of IT, and you can collaborate. Through the work groups, people come to learn, and innovation gives birth in those work groups. And the sister that was asking about PayPal and other things that are not reaching to Liberia is not only because of security. Yes, security is the key. People try to protect their integrity and the investment. But we also have something called a geolocation. The geolocation restricts the IP, the usage of the IP address across certain borders. And the reason for that is that you want to protect your content, not to regulate the internet, but if I have control over this, I know how to monitor it. And so if I am in Liberia and I want to be a part of the PayPal group, then I will have to, with like franchise or something, go there and make sure I make my, declare my intentions, and then they will tell me the way to go about bringing PayPal to Liberia. So I just want to give my input with that, because the internet that you see, we're talking about, people will not bring it to us. The chair mentioned the IXP, the internet exchange point that the LTA facilitated in the establishment. That establishment, we as people and users have to get involved in it. The reason why I say people and users, the entire technology structure that we see today is going towards the user. It's going to become a user-centric thing. And we as users, we have to control it. In controlling it, we have to develop content. And that is why you have the IXP. So if we start developing content as web developers and programmers, and other users who have the IQ to like you were talking about Palm Butter, YouTube, and other things, our content will be local to us. That way, we are not regulating it. Other people in other countries will go there, but when you check Liberia, everything about Palm Butter and cassava will come. Thank you. Any other questions?
He has to move.
Remote participants.
I'm Dennis Doe from the Liberia Broadcasting System. I want to address this question to Mrs. Wicks. As Liberia is making effort to establish internet system in the rural parts of Liberia, how much will it cost the government? Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that question. There are a lot of variables, and ultimately the assumptions that are used will. I take it that you're talking about getting the national ICT backbone throughout Liberia so that you can reach more unserved and underserved areas and have better quality of service. There are several parts to this. For the national backbone. That national backbone, first of all, will cover major economic development segments or areas to break it down. But it will not go to every community. It will be, as the word says, a backbone. That's the major line. From that, there will be branches that would go out to various areas, and that, depending on the terrain, could be through additional fiber It could be through microwave backhaul, or in extreme cases, it may have to rely on satellite. Just for the national backbone, based on the demand study, the technical design, and other considerations, the current estimate is that undertaking will cost about $55 million. That's just, that is not, and building the backbone and operational costs for a given period of time. There will have to be additional costs in terms of getting connectivity from that major line to more remote areas. There are various scenarios for financing it that are being looked at. And in addition, the government may want to pursue other models for financing it. But ideally, whatever model is pursued, it will be considered a public-private venture. It will not just be the government of Liberia funding it. It will likely not be just the private sector funding it. It will have to be a combination of the two. Separate from building that infrastructure, there will be the capacity that will be distributed through that infrastructure. There's a cost associated with bandwidth, and so that would have to be added on. The idea is when this is completed, not only will it get connectivity to those unserved and underserved areas, but it will do so in an affordable manner. So that means this investment that is made by whether it's the government and or private sector taking the lead, always a partnership though, of sorts. No matter what model is used, the expectation is that that infrastructure will last for a minimum of 20 years with ongoing repairs and maintenance, but it will have a useful life of at least 20 years. So whatever money is invested in building it, we will have a long period of time to recover that investment. If it is done through a concessional loan that the government takes, and for those who may not understand what that is, concessional loans are those that are almost interest-free and give you a long grace period, like the types of loans that the World Bank issues. Usually the World Bank loans, you have at least, well, approximately 20 years to repay it. They will give you a 10-year grace period, and the interest rate is almost non-existent. It's very, very low. The cost of private capital is usually a little bit higher, and those investors, they have to meet certain hurdle rates, the return on investment, to be able to say, I will put my money here. There could be some portion of it consisting of grants. There are a lot of people around there who want to give money away for good causes. So maybe the government will be able to attract entities that will be able to or be willing to give financing in the form of grants. A public-private partnership, in the true sense of a public-private partnership, could be the model that's used instead of the government going out and taking a loan or expecting a grant. But that may take a little bit more time to implement because we don't have all of the safeguards in place. I'm happy to know that the cabinet has, within the past few months, adopted the public-private partnership policy, which lays the foundation for transposing that policy into national laws. And then you need the regulatory framework, as well as the institutional frameworks for public-private partnership. I know you asked about cost. I'm saying all of this to share with you that it's not something that you can just say this is the amount, because there are a lot of variables that could change. There are certain assumptions that went into some of the estimates, and ultimately it will depend on the financing model that the government chooses to use. But it's not a small undertaking. That's the bottom line. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Not really. I
Yes.
for Philip.
Hello? Yes, I have two questions.
You want to be on screen.
Yes, I have two questions. One is for Mr. Mara. Here, I think 2 weeks ago, you invited John Molu in Basel for some President Day orientation. He spoke on the issue of the fiber optic project that was launched in 2009 to Liberia. The procurement process was actually, he said, was actually $47 million, and World Bank anti-corruption arm canceled the bid. So, Madam Weeks, you are here. It's in the paper, Abdullah. He spoke about that. So, do you have any comment that a particular bid was canceled and then $47 million? And what cost is the current fiber optic project in Liberia carrying on? What is the current cost?
I think that the response there can better be made by especially but there's not a disputed issue and there's some sector specific needs. You know, my own role there was to provide a platform for these conversations.
First of all, I don't know about the forum that you're speaking about. I can tell you, first of all, that the process involving the construction of the landing station has nothing to do with the public procurement laws of Liberia, because this was a World Bank funded project. The construction and maintenance agreement for the ACE cable system was signed on June 5, 2010, which is well past what you're talking about, 2009. So if there was some process before, I know nothing about it. I became a commissioner at the LTA on an interim basis in June 2009. I was appointed as a full-scale, full-fledged commissioner in August and confirmed in September 2009. I became the vice chairperson of the ACE Cable Consortium on June 7, 2010. All of the procurement for building the ACE cable system was, in terms of the $25.6 million loan that the government got from the World Bank, had nothing to do with Public Procurement and Concessions Commission of Liberia. It had to follow the World Bank procurement guidelines.
Yes.
And to my knowledge, I would love to hear more or see what Mr. Molu was speaking about. Perhaps there is some confusion or mix-up with regard to what he was speaking of. But as it relates to the ACE cable landing in Liberia, I know nothing about that. And in fact, the World Bank guidelines quite often are more restrictive than the Public Procurement and Concessions Act of Liberia. I think it's the PPC law in like the Public Procurement and Concessions Act is modeled after World Bank procedures. But this is the first time I'm hearing of any kind of cancellation of any kind of procurement relating to the fiber optic cable coming to Liberia. Maybe there was one before, unrelated to ACE, before my time. If you can share more information on that. Our public affairs director, yes, if you can get it to her.
I'll just forward the speech.
That would be very much appreciated, because if it is something that speaks to during my time at the LTA, then it can't go unanswered. So I came to the LTA in June 2009 as an interim chairperson, and in August was nominated and confirmed in September. The ACE construction and maintenance agreement was not signed until June 5, 2010 in Paris.
Mhm.
And I was elected as the vice chairperson of the management committee on June 7, 2010. I have a lot of respect for Mr. John Molu, so I would really like to see what this is about. And have to assume that somebody is misunderstanding something somewhere, because I know nothing about that. Thank you.
Yes, my second question has to do with the .gov policy. There's a draft policy on the Affected Marshall website referencing the .gov domain. But nowadays, it's so sad that you see private Liberian registering .gov domain. I gave you a practical instance. A government entity website went down, and I'm a web consultant. They paid the local reseller the amount to host the site. He took the money, and the site went down. They tried to negotiate with him. But the saddest thing is, you find private citizens registering government website in their name. But I think it is about time that we become more proactive. The e-government sector at Post and Telecommunication need to be more proactive. So either retrieve all the .gov domain and let it be custody of Post and Telecommunication. Then finally being owned by private citizens. That's a serious problem.
I think Minister Titus would have been the better response, but I know that we have Mr. Darren Wilkins here, who was head of the PMO. He can certainly speak to that. Thank you.
The issue of the .gov.lr domain, we have been working with the registrar to ensure that no private citizen registers a domain, a .gov.lr domain, without the knowledge of the Ministry of Posts and Telecommunications and the LTA. So I am not aware of any new registration of a .gov.lr domain. I do know that whenever there's a registration request, even coming from me, the chair is always copied. So is the minister or deputy minister for telecommunications and ICT. Now, I think I have an idea of what you were talking about as far as some entity went down and some private citizen registered. I think you got the information wrong. Whoever fed you that information got the wrong information. What happened was the entity, being a very significant entity, crucial one, requested the Ministry of Posts and Telecommunications to intervene. The ministry subsequently contacted the registrar and the host company for the entity. I mean, I will leave it at that. You can talk to me afterwards, but I can assure you that whoever gave you the information gave you the wrong information. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, we'll take two more
There are 2 more questions in the closing of that.
What? Tom, we should make this the last question. No, he said 2.
Good afternoon, please. Well, I'm James Zebedee-Cole. I'm a MIS officer, IT consultant for the Library Agency for Community Development, and I'm also a member of the Internet Society.
Come closer.
Yes.
And I'm also a member of the Internet Society. My brother there made mention of our lab, and the our lab is doing very well in the Republic. As a matter of fact, presently, Liz is implementing a project under the World Bank. Okay, all this is intertwined, interwoven with internet, activities. Okay, we are presently implementing a project. The platform was designed by our lab. Okay, and previously we were using FormHub, but later on we updated the platform, and now we are using Onam. And we are also using a mobile application called OTK Collect that we use to collect data around in various legal countries. Presently, we are working with 10,500 beneficiaries, and all those information are then stored on the internet. Okay, anytime we want our information, we log onto our account on our Onam server on the net, and we collect them, and those information are processed. Okay, what I want to say is that there's a need for us to rally around. A typical Liberian is known for talking. We come here, we make big statement, we say good things, but the whole interaction, it's not there. So what I want us to do, at least at the end of this meeting, at the end of this annual conference, let us see how best we can do some notification and begin to put our thoughts into action and begin to, put people who are able to deliver into leadership, especially within Liberia when it comes to the Internet Society. We should not create syndrome where people will be, placed into leadership where, they won't be able to deliver. As a matter of fact, anyone who sits, in the capacity of a leader in this society, especially in the Liberian chapter, should have an in RCT, area. At least that person should be an IT. Even if that person is not an IT, the person should have some relevant information, some skill in the RCT area. That is the only way the person can be able to deliver. That is the only way the person can be able to, bring things from out there on the floor to see how best the society can be.
Zizi, we have 2 other questions here. Well, we'll ask one question. Is one. Who's one?
We have the microphone here.
That's the same person.
Oh. It's the same person?
Yeah, we have issued our final report, and I'm not prepared to comment on it.
Oh, can you say that?
We have initially was arranged. We thought we would have the elections tomorrow. Information was sent out.